Hi Chris, how are you?
Good evening, Rod. Yes, I'm well. Here we are. It's Sunday the 5th of October. It's episode 193. We're getting towards that 200 marker pretty quick, you know. Before the year's out, we will be there. All is well, and it's a pretty good day, actually, here in the Cotswolds. It's pretty good autumnal day, I think it's fair to say. A bit of sun, you know, like a bit of autumn sun. It's lovely.
That's very nice. I apologise in advance to viewers. I will talk about the weather in a second for my change in audio. I have a slight change in circumstances, so I still need to sort out some few bits and pieces in the new location in which I'm recording. So if I'm a bit echoey, I apologise in advance. I need a few more, as Chris puts it, soft furnishings.
And for those of you watching, if I touch my ceiling here, I had to put soft pads on my ceiling to make it less echoey, because in an office, like a wooden shed, you don't actually have much in the way of curtains. I've got like roller blinds, and I did get a sofa and a carpet in the end, like a little bit of a rug, but it was very hard surface for a while in here, so that's why I've got those pads above my head.
Yep, you got to think about these things when you podcast, about where all your audio goes and all that kind of stuff. Anyway, my weather has been okay. It's been not a bad day. There was a little spell of rain earlier, but other than that, mostly sunny. Can see the blue skies. Temperature's quite good for this time of year. All good, I think. Happy
days. Should we get into it?
Let's do it. So, starting off, and this is follow-up. We did talk about this when it dropped.
This is multiple follow-ups we've had on this.
Yeah, this is multiple follow-ups. And once again, Safari is really annoying me with its inability to copy tabs from one place to another. That's very upsetting. Why?
I'm a big Safari user as well.
So why won't it let me copy tabs from one to the other, Chris?
User error?
I don't think it's that.
I'm sure that's what Apple would say.
I think that there are so many bugs in the current version of macOS that this is actually becoming an issue. Is that going to work? No.
I think at some point, everybody talks about Snow Leopard with, I think, largely rose-tinted glasses. But at some point, actually having a year where we're not doing new features. We are just tightening everything up. We've put all our engineering resource on every app into just tightening all the nuts and bolts, and just, you know, a whole year's worth of development and QA would be fantastic if Apple would do it. But they never will now. It's just not that company anymore.
No, it's not that company anymore. And this is genuinely infuriating me that I cannot move this tab to a Safari window. Why can't I do that? This is a serious bug.
I don't know. I don't know what to say. You can probably copy it onto your iPhone and back, but this is not from one tab on another on the same computer.
I'm genuinely mystified. Okay, all right, let's do this the old-fashioned way then, and I'll copy and paste the blooming thing into the thing. There you go. There we are. Can you see that, Chris? That's absolutely shocking, Apple. Come on, why can't I copy a tab from one window to another?
So
That's
our
dreadful.
First follow-up story for those that are still with us is the Trump phone is late. This is the follow-up story. We've talked about this Trump phone before. Originally, it looked a bit like an Android phone in gold. Then it looked a bit like an iPhone or the other way around in gold. And now it's not coming at the moment, which is a surprise to no one because it probably doesn't exist.
Yeah, so this was a story that they were going to make a very well, overly specified smartphone, some would say, for about $600, I think it was, called the Trump Mobile T1. It was going to be gold. The initial renders made it look like an iPhone 15 Pro, we probably decided it was by the way the cameras are arranged. And then a later render of it looked like the Samsung Galaxy 25. And now it's late, so shock, I guess.
I just don't get it. Like, it didn't look like it existed, and now it's late. And I love they've got the tagline on there, "Make America Great Again." But why don't they have "Make Donald Rich Again" as their tag? That would be awesome.
Well, I don't think he's lost any money particularly. He seems to be gaining quite a lot.
I'm sure he's fine. It's just bonkers. This whole story is bonkers that the President of the United States is having his own mobile phone company. This seems odd to me.
Well, it's just a mobile phone. Well, is it an MVNO as well, or is it just the is it just the phone itself?
Isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It's absolutely crazy. But I guess if you're a card-carrying Trump supporter, then you've got to show it through a gold phone and your MAGA hat and your T-shirt, and I think he did gold sneakers as well. He did gold trainers at some point, didn't he?
Oh, I've no idea. Anyway, it's meant to still arrive later this year, but there's not long left this year, so it'll be interesting to see if it actually lands.
Well, never say never. We can hold out for the Trump phone, and I'm looking forward to Marquez's review of it, it must be said.
Yeah, actually, I would watch that, I think. I do like Marquez Brownlee. I think he's a fantastic reviewer. Well, as does the rest of the internet.
Yeah, exactly. He's got quite a few subscribers, hasn't he? Apart from his own sort of dabblings with breaking the speed limit in Lamborghinis, which I think we'll gloss over. Sticking with Apple, going back to Apple, I think, which is most of the point of the podcast. We talked a few weeks ago about the ICE Tracker app. This was an app that was on the iOS store that would notify people if the Immigration Enforcement Agency, effectively ICE, would be in people's areas. So people who might be at threat or under risk of being deported or jailed by ICE would know that they were working in that area. This has been on the App Store for that period of time. Anyway, Apple just pulled it out at request of the Trump government.
What do you think about this?
I don't think an awful lot about this, to be honest. I think this is it's kind of government censorship, isn't it? The fact that the government is specifying what can and what can't happen. And we're going to talk about more potential government censorship later in the podcast. But, I mean, Apple have already shown that they will give money, give prizes, give awards to the Trump government. So I'm not deeply surprised about it. I just think it's very disappointing.
But I find it weird that there's an app that exists for tracking of immigration and customs enforcement agents, like locations. Like, how is that a thing? How is it allowed to be? And why aren't the developers of the app being asked to cease and desist if the government don't want this to exist? Shouldn't got to a point of being published, surely.
Well, you're very. I mean, I'm not an American, obviously. I don't know an awful lot about the Constitution, but there's sort of some fairly deep First Amendment issues in this. I would have said about free speech and the fact that most government agents, police, FBI, CIA, NSA, DEA, etc., 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 show their faces and have ID identifiers on,
like
their
a warrant
identification. Card. Well, no, their identification displayed somewhere on them. ICE agents don't do that and wear face masks. So, and don't have to. So how do you know they're an ICE agent? You're going to get people pretending to be them. I think the can of worms that's opened by this agency in particular is a real problem for how Americans live their lives and who is an American and what that means for them. And I just think it's verging on, breaking their constitution in areas. So saying developers, if they're accepted by the App Store, can't then publish their apps, then that goes beyond just Apple's policies. That's in a whole rake of freedom of expression, freedom of your ability to write your apps and all the rest of it. And I don't think Apple should be, held to account for that, really. And do you think the US government should go after developers they don't like? Apple should just freely hand that information over?
Oh, I don't know on this one. Like, it's really tricky. But surely, though, if the government think an app is wrong and shouldn't exist, or a website shouldn't, let's assume this was a website. It probably does have a web backend. Like, if it was a website, who are they going to contact? The domain registrar and ask them to repoint it somewhere else? They wouldn't. They'd contact the owner of the website and ask them to take it down.
I don't think they would. I think they'd get the ISP or whoever is hosting the website, Cloudflare or whoever was hosting it, and tell them to take it down as a DMCA violation or whatever the sort of breach would be. So I don't think. Ultimately they'd go after whoever wrote the website, but the first instance, which I suppose is what they're doing here, they've told Apple to take it down.
Yeah. Okay.
So you don't immediately go for the developer. If let's say the United States government didn't like the contents of our podcast, the first thing they'd do is go after our provider to stop hosting the podcast, and then they'd go after us.
Yeah, I guess you're right.
So
I don't necessarily agree with it, because I think that you should contact the person creating the content to revoke it before you go after the places where it's published, because that's the owner of the content.
I just think it's sort of long-standing precedent, but I don't like the fact that this has been taken down anyway. This is a government agent is behaving in a deeply immoral way. Law enforcement officers should have their faces exposed and have identifiers to show that they are. In this country, the police don't go around with masks on.
Yeah, I would agree with you there.
So I think there's deeper problems here than just this app, and the fact that they're trying to deport all these people. I'm sure they are getting the odd criminal caught up in all this, but I don't suspect it's very many.
Fair. No, I don't disagree with that.
Moving on, because I think that's not a great topic. And on to something that I think also worries me slightly. Affinity, maker of an app that both you and I use quite a lot. They have a Photoshop equivalent, and they have a sort of Adobe Illustrator equivalent and things like that. So there's a drawing app, there's a photo manipulation app.
I think like a publishing app as well.
and a publishing app, a desktop publishing app, Affinity Publisher, were bought by the website Canva a couple of years back. Apparently nothing was going to change. You and I both like Affinity because you could do a one-off payment and then get updates for certainly a year, often longer than that. They were quite a good company. They're quite often on sale. Decent competitors to the Adobe suite, which is always a good thing given Adobe's ability to charge you subscription and ongoing fees and then charge you for getting out your subscription fees early. Anyway, Affinity announced the iPad versions of their apps were going to be free up to October the 30th, and then things are going to change. But something new and creative is going to happen. Aren't you excited?
There's a couple of things here. One, yeah, I do use Infinity apps. I thought they're quite good value for money. And there's a lot of functionality. They haven't been great at supporting latest OS updates. What is interesting, the link that we've got in the show notes, though, is it looks like the pencil stuck to the iPad on the wrong side, on the shorter side, which doesn't work. So they've obviously been using their own Photoshop tools here to make that image. I wonder what's coming on the 30th. Do you reckon this is Apple having an event or Affinity now having an event? I don't know.
I think they're going to start charging a subscription model to bung in some AI.
Yeah, quite possibly. And do a new version of the apps. Ugh. But it says creative freedom is coming. Freedom doesn't sound like a recurring subscription.
Totally does when you ask your AI agent to, can you draw me an iPad, please, with the Apple Pencil stuck on the wrong side of it? That's total freedom.
Yeah, I guess. And look, I'm usually a fan of pay once and unlock it forever if I can make the maths work in my head. I've done that on a number of apps. This, for me, would make sense if I was a creative person and that's how my business. But for me, it's more of an app I dip in and out of every now and again.
Would it though? I mean, it depends what the subscription is. I mean, Canva have a subscription. That's the way that they make their money. So, and the fact that you've got a decent drawing app. I mean, Apple bought Pixelmator Pro not that long ago, like the company that make Pixelmator Pro. So I think these competitors, serious competitors to Adobe, are very important to companies. If I was a creative, do I want AI slop in my app? I don't know. Do I?
I'm not creative, but I don't think I do. But I'm curious to see where this is going to go. Could be an interesting half of the year for the iPad.
Well, I guess we'll know more at the end of the month.
So we talk about crossbody straps.
Yeah, this is a product I don't really understand.
Agreed,
so
but now I know what the two holes are on each side of the Apple cases. I don't really understand what they were there for when I was in the Apple shop last week, but now I can see they're for the crossbody strap to go on. So the crossbody strap hangs around your neck and it clips onto each side of the iPhone case. Not the iPhone, but the case.
Yeah, so we talked about this when the phones launched. This was an accessory. I think they're 75 quid off the top of my head. They're 75 quid for the strap, and then obviously you need the right kind of case to plug it into. Listening to ATP this week, it's not that simple to actually thread the sort of loops of the strap through. Have you ever had a digital camera or any of these loops in the past? You'd feed the loop through, and then you'd feed the strap back through the poking out contents of the loop in order to secure it. So you have a fairly simple sort of, it's not a knot, but it crosses over itself, and the tension it puts on it means it doesn't get released easily. It's easy to feed it in, but you can't pull the loops back out without like a needle puller or a thread puller or something like that. So it's quite a tight fit.
Do you think we're going to have a new purpose for the SIM ejector now? Now they're not going to be shipping that in phones as they go SIM card free.
Well, I suspect these crossbody straps don't come with that. I mean, the point of this story is that you can't get one if you want one. They're back ordered. You're not going to get one tomorrow. You might be lucky and walk into an Apple store and get one, but they're back ordered if you want to actually pick one up from the online Apple store. This blows my mind. I can't believe they're so popular at that price.
But are they popular at that price, or is it just because they actually didn't make that many of them and 5 people have ordered them and they thought only one person was going to order?
I don't know. I think these things are probably quite popular. There's obviously a target market for them. As I look around the world now and I look at the way some people use their phones, and having been traveling recently, this is quite a common thing. You see people with their iPhones suspended around their necks and like over one arm like a bag, so they can just pull them up and look at their phones.
Especially as they get bigger and heavier. They're £59 here in the UK, and if I ordered one now, I could get between the 4th and the 11th of November. An orange one, just as a per se, but not my bag. So about a month delay here.
But it could be your bag if you hang around your neck like that. I mean, I suspect the reason these exist is because women's pockets are rubbish. Genuinely.
Well, I guess they're trying to go into other markets, and you've also got to buy the Apple case to go with it. So it's double bubble, isn't it?
It's not for me. It's interesting that it's backordered. I think they're very popular. The other rumors I've seen is that the new iPhones are more. They're selling more of them than they anticipated. They're doing quite well. I guess that's good for Apple, and unsurprisingly, if they're doing well, then the accessories are doing well too.
So I've got the orange iPhone Pro, and I've had a number of people go, "Oh, you got the new iPhone, have you?" Because it looks different. And that's when Apple sells more phones, I think, is when they look different. People are more interested. Whereas the last few years have been a little bit of a damp squid, sort of 13, 14, 15, 16. Just from an aesthetics point of view, if you know, but most people wouldn't be able to tell the difference just by looking at the camera Mesa that was on the last 4 years worth of phones.
Was that a damp squid or a damp squib?
Squib. I meant to say squib.
Well, I think we've got a show title. Moving on. I think squid should be damp, shouldn't it?
This is fair.
Yeah, moving on. And Epic say they have news of how Apple's dark patterns actually affect or impacted their app stores. So all the sort of warning labels and things, and we talked about this in the podcast as well, about the language that Apple was putting on its scare screens, really, about your details will be securely held with Apple, and tap here and move to this. As to people going on and onboarding on the European versions of the digital marketplaces, and apparently it's dropped from 15 steps to 6 as part of what they do, and people are unsurprisingly onboarding a lot more quickly. So that sort of dark patterns to the way you build up your apps unsurprisingly works.
Yeah, who knew that people would abort? It's like on a shopping checkout, isn't it? The more steps you put in somebody's way, the more chances they're not going to get all the way through and make a successful order. This is no surprise. I do think, I just wish Apple would be the bigger person in the room sometimes, but they struggle with that concept.
It ain't happening, is it? Anyway, I mean, there's ongoing court cases with Epic and Apple and Epic and Google and all this kind of stuff as well. So this will be follow-up for us forever, really. Even when it's resolved, there'll be appeals, is what we've seen. So, I mean, I'm not surprised by this, that if you simplify it and make it easier for people want to play Fortnite.
Apparently so. Thankfully, my son has weaned himself off of Fortnite, which is fantastic news.
For now.
Yeah, for now. I guess it may well come back around.
It may well come back around. Something that has come back around is all the reviews are out of the various iPhone 17s. We've seen the Airs, we've seen the Pros, and this week Marquez got round to reviewing the bog standard iPhone 17, and he really, really likes it. And basically he says what we said, which is, if you need a phone, if you haven't had one for a couple of generations, get this. Don't get the Pro. You don't need most of the features on the Pro. What you need is the bog standard iPhone 17. The cameras are better, the screen is now no longer a restriction, and it saves you money. And the point that's well made in his review here is it's $100 cheaper than the Google Pixel 10. And I think that's quite a big thing. They've finally hit the point where the Pixel phones are now more expensive than the base model iPhone.
Yeah, that is impressive because Apple have always been known as being more expensive. And I agree with them. I think this is the phone 90% of people should probably get. I think it's a great phone. And I think I love the design with the two cameras. Really solid.
Genuinely, if I dropped my phone tomorrow and I had to replace my phone, I don't think I'd buy a Pro this year. I think I'd go with the bog standard iPhone 17.
Now I've had a Pro for 2 weeks. I would struggle not to have the telephoto lens. It is awesome.
I'd quite like to do something different, is the thing.
I don't disagree with that statement. I think that is fair.
I've had a Pro Max model for the last 3 or as long as there's been Pro Max models. So I think I've certainly had 3 generations of Pro Max. I quite fancy something else.
I can see it, and I wouldn't mind something that felt a bit different, looked a bit different, but the triple lens thing has won me over, and that I've made the right call. But I like messing around with photos. That's my little thing that I do from time to time. So I'm enjoying that.
Yep, fair enough. I'm not criticizing anyone that thinks they're pro. You're clearly a pro, Chris. So you know,
if that base phone had the triple camera system, I'd have bought it.
And that's the reason it hasn't.
That is exactly the reason it hasn't, because Apple know what they're doing. They've got a massive spreadsheet with it all in.
They're very good at that. Just upsell you to the next level, aren't they?
100%.
Moving on, we talked last week about the new generation of Qualcomm Snapdragon processors. In that instance, it was about the phones as much as anything else for the next generation phones that were coming along. Qualcomm also make chips for laptops. We saw the last generation of Windows laptops, the Copilot Plus PCs as they were called, had Snapdragon X Elite in them, was the name of the chip when it was applied to a laptop. Well, the X Elite 2 is here, and they reckon it's on par with the M4 chips, which is really quite impressive for a second generation chip.
Fantastic. This is what you want. You need somebody nipping at Apple's heels, toes, to keep them pushing forwards. This is really good, isn't it? That Apple aren't just doing their own thing. Others have caught up. So I think this is good. Apple need to have some competition. Even though they seem to they crank out 10% gains every year, this is really good. Because one day Qualcomm will release a faster chip than Apple, which should spur them on.
This is what we want, I agree with you. More power, better battery life, all these kinds of things. These sort of performance increases we want. And who knows, as you say, maybe Qualcomm will make it to the next generation of fab process. Maybe they'll make it to 2 nanometers before Apple do. Possibly. You don't know, in which case they'll have that. This is compared against the M4. We're about to get M5s, but I think this is really solid by Qualcomm, and I like to see it.
100%. Competition is healthy.
Yep. Shall we do some news?
Let's do the news.
Okay, so first up, why don't you tell us about Apple and the UK government and backdoors?
I thought I misread here. So apparently the UK is once again, this is the title, once again demands a backdoor to Apple's encrypted cloud storage. But it's okay. They just want access to just UK citizens. Backdoor, not anybody else. It's completely different request this time than the last one. And Apple still can't turn on advanced data protection in the UK for new users. So you and I still have it, but if we were new, we wouldn't be able to turn it on. This whole thing, I thought this was done and dusted, and the political parties got involved, and everybody said, "Look, this is stupid. Just stop it." And yeah, here we go. We've just had the president over. We've done all the handshaking, and then as soon as he's left, they've gone, "Can we have our back door now, please? But just for us." Stop it.
Yeah, it's really shoddy UK government. We won't go through the arguments again. We have them every time this kind of thing comes up. Backdoors are stupid for lots and lots and lots and lots of reasons, and I hope Apple don't let them have it. Or let's face it, what will happen is they'll stop working with the UK in the same way that they're beginning to distance themselves from the EU. Android aren't going to bend over for this. What are we going to be left with? We're going to be back on Nokia phones and just texting each other.
Ooh, hold that thought when it comes up later on when I talk about media. Yeah, this is dumb. Why is this? I just don't understand why this has come back. I thought it'd gone away. Backdoors are bad, and the UK has been hit with so many cyber attacks this year. This is just another mechanism that could happen.
We talked last week about potentially having passports or national identity cards on our phones at some point. You're going to have a backdoor to this, so people can just steal all those details even easier. Wonderful. What a great idea.
Yeah. Stop it, government.
Yeah, grow up. Somebody else that's suffering from cyber attacks at the moment is the Japanese beer company Asahi. I think I'm saying that right. I like a pint of Asahi. Do you like a pint of Asahi?
100%. This is an amazing beer. Like this thing, I found this many, many years ago, and a pint of that is a wonderful thing because you don't get it here in many places. So when you do have it, it's quite a treat.
It's nice. Wagamama obviously have it on draft. If you go in there and you have a bowl of ramen, you can have a nice pint of Asahi with it. But not in Japan, it would seem. The brewer has been hit with a cyber attack, and the Japanese themselves are about, I presume it's brewed under license in the UK, but within Japan, the cyber attack has stopped Asahi being brewed, and I think that's a real tragedy.
I agreed with you. I mean, cyber attackers have no morals, do they? And they go for anybody. But no, this is awful. And again, how many people are getting hit with cyber attacks? And I don't know the nature of it, and they haven't released any details because obviously they're still trying to contain the attack. But a lot of these times you find these companies just aren't doing the basics. They think they're not going to get attacked, but you don't need to be doing anything. You just need to be online to be a potential victim. I did like the title of this one. It said, "No suds for you." I haven't heard, the only time I hear the word suds in relation to beer, I think is Shawshank Redemption, when they're sat on top of the roof tarring it and they have a couple of cold beers and they call it suds.
Yeah, it's an unusual way of saying it. But yeah, I think this is bad. And all enterprises, no matter what your product, you need to be looking at your cybersecurity to make sure that you have the right protections in place to stop this kind of thing happening to you. Because we've seen it with the Co-op, we've seen it with Marks and Spencer's, we've seen it twice with Harrods, we're seeing it with Jaguar Land Rover, which is wanting a bailout from the UK government at this point. be it beer, be it food, be it farming, this is a problem.
100%. Start with the basics. Patch everything, keep everything maintained. Then make sure you're monitoring it. Just do the basics, manage your risks. It's worrying, isn't it?
It really is. Something else that's worrying, if you're a product owner of a Strava or Garmin product, and as I struggle to move my tabs around again, apologies viewers, Strava is suing Garmin. This is the most bizarre bust-up in two companies I think I've come across since Research in Motion started suing everybody for BlackBerry things.
Yeah, it's a bit interesting this one because they're buddies. They've got to play in the same sandpit quite often, and people who use Strava use Garmin and vice versa, obviously. But it sounds like Strava's getting annoyed because Garmin want their logo to be put on everything where it's come from a Garmin device, which I kind of understand. Like this stat was recorded on a Garmin device, but apparently that's why they've got upset. And yeah, it's a bit of a weird one, isn't it? Because reading the commentary here, it feels like Strava haven't got a huge leg to stand on, and therefore, why would you then go and ruin potentially, a relationship where Garmin could recreate some of Strava?
Yeah, this is really weird. I mean, Garmin make devices, obviously, as do Apple, as do Google. Strava is an app. It's an app that people who exercise really use as a social networking app. Trying to beat somebody's time with your mountain bike or you're on your run or whatever it is are a reason people buy Garmin products. However, if Garmin stopped supporting Strava, the Garmin devices still exist. It's a really odd lawsuit. And as you say, if you read the article, they don't seem to have much of a leg to stand on in terms of what it is that they're asking for in the lawsuit. So it's a really weird one.
Yeah, now they're going to jeopardize their relationship.
Almost certainly they're going to jeopardize, because next time you go for that integration between the two things, it's a selling point for both of them, isn't it? Strava works best on Garmin devices. Garmin devices support Strava more fully. We know how the app market works. It doesn't take very much for somebody else to come on with an app that's good enough that you get enough people moving to that people might move to it. We've seen it with OnlyFriends and Facebook. We've seen it with WhatsApp and things like that. It can happen. Strava should be very careful here.
I completely agree with you. I would have assumed Strava need Garmin more than Garmin needs Strava.
Absolutely. If you're a serious athlete, you've got a Garmin device, right?
I'd have thought so. And they could start building their own ecosystem out a lot more than what they have done.
Totally. Make their own app, for example. Moving on, one of the bugs within macOS Tahoe has become obvious. It does not play well with Electron apps. I've got quite a lot of Electron apps. I think most notably Slack, which we use corporately. And I have noticed some of these slowdowns associated with it, so it can cause freezes and all sorts of things. And do you know what it's related to, Chris? How round the windows are. Isn't that great?
And it doesn't surprise me because obviously corner radius is changed in Tahoe, and looking at you now, you can easily tell which apps are 26 native and which apps aren't because of the corner radius, which it seems crazy. I am surprised. I'm not surprised by this, I guess. I think because there's a bug and it's just been exacerbated in this release because of the way it does the corner radius, and they've got a fix for it, which is great. But how many apps are Electron? I mean, it's going to be a lot, isn't it?
It's a lot. So Electron is a web framework, basically, that lets you make desktop class apps written in a web language rather than natively within Swift or whatever. So Teams is written in an Electron adjacent, if not Electron itself. Slack is written in it. I feel like Zoom is, but there's a whole bunch of apps that are written in Electron. A lot of text editors like Zed, Visual Studio Code, all that kind of stuff are written in Electron. So the chances are, if you're a developer particularly, you've got a lot of these things kicking around on your machine.
Yeah, 100%. It's not great, is it? It does feel this year more than most that obviously the 26 OSs could have maybe had a little more time in the oven.
I think they should have maybe made the choice that the 18 branch of iOS, macOS, and all the rest of it got another point release or two before they dropped 26s.
Or just do one with the new look and feel, not all of the OS. Do 20 iOS first, obviously, and then filter it down to everything else. You didn't need to do it all this year.
Yeah, and they're walking it back in the 26.1 betas. A lot of the liquid glass effects have been more frosted, so you can actually see that content that they keep banging on about.
Yeah, I've not tried the 0.1 update yet, but I may well do in the next public.
I do want to talk about the 0.1 update in a minute. You might have had a similar experience. Anyway, very quickly, we're going to dive into rumour a little bit. You and I have noted our love for the Vision Pro repeatedly. Obviously, Apple are responding a bit to what we talked about last week with Meta's glasses. And apparently, they're shifting around resources within the company. The Apple glasses are now rumoured to follow a rare strategy for launch, according to the 9 to 5 Mac article, i.e. they're moving developers out of one team for another to get the glasses out the door.
This isn't rare, though, is it? This is what they did for the iPhone. This is what they did for the watch. This is what Apple do. This is probably what they did for Vision Pro. It seems odd to me here, though, because surely they're not going to have Glass OS. Surely they're going to take Vision OS, and Vision OS 4 or whatever is going to launch on a pair of glasses, and not have a big bulky headset, but have a really lightweight headset and come at it a slightly different way around. That would be my understanding. It's just all seems a bit odd. It does feel obviously like, and we discussed this last week, I think Apple came at it from the let's do the big headset and try and thin it down, whereas Meta have come up, let's do the basic glasses and build it up. So it's two interesting ways, and Meta is obviously winning at the moment. So it's gonna be, I'm curious to see how Apple are going to play this one.
Yeah, I don't think they're the same thing, though, are they? From what I read and hear about Vision OS, is it's a cinema experience. The AR part of it is very secondary to it. It's a nice big cinema screen. It's enjoying meeting your friends and things like that in FaceTime, where they're actually more fully featured avatars of themselves. It's about immersing yourself with a bigger screen Mac. Or, like I say, and you've said it a couple of times, if you had a couple of these in the family and you can all sit together in a virtual cinema watching that truly big screen experience, that's what Vision Pro gives you. Whereas augmented reality isn't that. Augmented reality is, here's a map of where you're going next. Take a picture of what I'm looking at right now, apply this and send it. It's not the same operating system.
True. So maybe you're right. Maybe, do you think Vision OS is going to go in the bin and we're going to have Sight OS or whatever they're going to call it?
I mean, my feeling is it's kind of in the bin already. The penetration is very, very poor. And unless they can get this, and they're already saying it in one of these articles that we've got, the plans for the next generation of these, A, have leaked for the FCC. We've seen what might be coming next anyway. And B, I don't think you're seeing the mass market adoption of these things. And if truly augmented reality glasses are the next thing, then Apple's wasting time with this product. And developers aren't embracing either.
Yeah, that is true. I think developers have struggled with it, a bit like with the Apple Watch. They all rushed the Apple Watch and it didn't go anywhere, and everybody's walked it back. I think with this, the big problem is price. If this was about £1,000, I'd have bought one, 1,500 quid. But at $2,500, it's £3,500.
$3,500. Yeah.
It's just too much money right now for what it is.
And that's it, isn't it? It's what it is, and what it is extremely limited. Whereas the Meta glasses are quite limited, but they seem to be a truly interesting product. Meta Maps aren't Google Maps, but if you can have that while you're skiing, driving, walking, and not have to have and it orients where you're looking. Imagine coming out of a tube station and immediately being pointed in the right direction of where you need to go, as opposed to doing the dance where you came out and you turn in circles several times.
Yeah. No, I would be well up for that. And also, it doesn't look like you've got a computer strapped to your face. That's the big difference, isn't it?
Yeah, it's just a very small, subtle screen. And I linked to the Mr. Who's the Boss video last week of the glasses, and I think they look pretty cool.
They do look cool. They've done a really good job of getting the balance right of modern glasses versus a computer.
You know what doesn't look cool? Crocs with Windows logos on them.
I'm sorry, why do these exist? Like, why is this even a thing? Microsoft sold their keyboard business, but yet seem to be, partnering with Crocs to make Windows versions of Crocs. Very bizarre.
So, I mean, they're a sky blue pair of Crocs, basically. They've got clouds on them, as per the Windows XP desktop, I guess. And I think they call them gibbets. It's what's pinned to the Crocs with Internet Explorer.
Like that.
With Internet Explorer and Clippy and a mouse cursor and all the rest of it. And, I mean, Crocs are ugly, functional slippers is the way I view them. If you have to go out of the house, then that's it. But you shouldn't wear them any sort of full-time thing. They're up there with Uggs as far as I'm concerned.
But they have hit modern fashion more recently, haven't they?
Well, they have. I've got an interesting anecdote about this. Do you know the film Office Space?
No.
Right, so Office Space
Imagine that. There's something you've seen that I haven't.
I know. You should watch Office Space. And in fact, I'm talking about the wrong film. I want to talk about Idiocracy, but it's the same director. Have you seen Idiocracy?
No.
Oh my gosh, Chris. So, Mike Judge, who you like, Beavis and Butthead and King of the Hill. Mike Judge, King of the Hill, all that kind of stuff. Did 2 films in the 80s, one of which was called Office Space, which is what it's like to be an office drone, which is really, really funny, and you should drop everything as soon as the podcast's finished and go and watch it. And the second one was Idiocracy, where he imagined a future where, because this is the film, this is not me talking, intelligent people put off having children because they want to have a career settled and all the rest of before they have it, whereas people who haven't been to university just get down with the business of having children. So the chances are that you'll be outpopulated by people who haven't had those opportunities as people who for whatever reason. Like I say, their words, not mine. Anyway, in a very short space of time, a person of average intelligence becomes extremely clever in relation to the rest of the population. To show this near future world, the film showed Crocs for the first time. There's no way people will be wearing these shoes in the future, and lo and behold, we're all wearing Crocs, and now you can have Windows Crocs too.
I'm glad the way you brought that back around. I'm with you. Crocs are a functional item. I have one pair. I wear them to get from my back door to my shed and back again. And I take them off when I come in my shed. I take them off when I get in the house. They are just there as a mode of transport. I take the bins out with them. That's what they're for. Yep, 100%. And Crocs have done really well out of it, and now people actually wear them out in public. It's bizarre.
It's the deal. Let's move on quickly because I feel myself getting into trouble here.
I'm just writing down Mike Judge films to go and get on either streaming or Apple.
I should have talked about that in media. Do you want to tell us about this leaked M5 iPad Pro?
So I saw this pop up, and obviously I'm a big iPad fan. I thought, you know what? I'm going to take a look at this. So this is a Russian citizen who's apparently has got the iPad Pro M5 edition. So the one that's not out yet with the chip that nobody's ever seen or heard. Well, probably have heard of, but not by Apple. And they've got an unboxing. Weirdly, the box looks the same as the M4 version. And apparently it's the M5, and they show it, and it's already dubbed, from Russian into English. It's done really well, the dubbing, by the way. And apparently it's got the M5 in it. It's about 10% faster, but everything else about the iPad looks exactly the same. It does have 12 gig of RAM, and it's got less than a terabyte of storage in it. So I don't know whether Apple is still going to do the thing where if you got a terabyte of storage, you got more RAM, which didn't really say what it was for, but obviously made multitasking better. So I always bought a terabyte or more to get the extra RAM. So I don't know if that's still going to exist. But basically, they've taken the M4 and they've put an M5 in it, and they're probably going to release it quite soon because this also came up in the FCC database leak. But other than that, sadly, not much more to say about it.
I mean, there's a couple of things to say about this, isn't there? I mean, the first thing is this YouTuber has form. I'm pretty sure he showed the MacBook Pros, the M4 MacBook Pros last year, the base model ones you were going to get, the Thunderbolt port that actually worked with displaying more than one display. So that was a bit of a spoiler for him. So well done, they've got another one. I mean, surely this has got to be criminal in some way? These have been stolen or boosted, or something's happened to these shop in Russia.
Well, the interesting thing is Apple don't sell products in Russia. So something's happened here. I don't really understand what, but they've managed to get a hold of it somehow, record a video. So is it coming out soon? I don't know. But you're right. This person and this channel have got good form because they did this last year.
So that's part of it. The second part is addressing what you said there, but it's not being that interesting. It's a spec bump for the chip. It's a little bit faster. Nothing else has really changed. Even the box probably hasn't really changed. It's interesting how we're both just accepting that this is real at this point because of what's happened before. But my thinking is, this isn't a major change because what's coming soon will be folding iPads. We're going to get folding phones based on the iPhone Air. Surely folding iPads are in the pipeline as well. And at that point, they start to become more interesting.
Agreed. I do wonder now, though, whether a folding iPhone isn't going to be iPad OS when it folds, but just a blown up version of iOS. So yeah, this feels like a placeholder year. And the good news here is at least Apple's keeping the product current, which obviously they've had form, especially with the iPad, of letting it languish for a few years. So I think it's good. But if this is what the iPad M5 is, I'm quite happy in one way because I don't want to buy it, which is good for my bank balance.
That is good. Anything else in news?
No, I don't think so.
Perfect. Let's do a very small car corner, shall we?
Yeah.
He said, trying to open a tab. So I just wanted to talk about, reflect on an experience I've had with iOS 26.0.0.1. I thought it was my Volvo because my Volvo is very flaky when it comes to CarPlay. I had this issue when I installed the Tahoe version, not Tahoe, 26.0, that I'd just get a black screen when I got a CarPlay. It'd work for about 20, 30 seconds, and then I'd just get a black screen. It would bomb out on me. And I vaguely remember you saying you had something similar?
I had the same, but I thought it was because I updated to an iPhone 17. So it's fine on running the beta on my 15. No problems. Worked fine on my Audi. I'm talking about a very old Audi with a CarPlay mod, but it was fine on my 15. Drove for hours and it was fine. Put my new 17 phone, linked it up to it, and it bombed out. And then I saw other people were getting this. I thought, great, it will get fixed, which is why I didn't update to the beta, because I thought it's more likely to get updated quicker in the non-beta profile. So I've installed 26.01, thought this would fix it, and it's not really any different.
Oh, my experience is different. So I was not having it on my 15 in the betas, and when I installed the final release candidate, I started getting this. But I thought it was the Volvo. I didn't think it was my phone. I've always had flaky CarPlay stuff with the Volvo. However, 26.0.0.1 has absolutely fixed it. CarPlay is now rock solid in my Volvo.
Well, I'm glad you're happy, but one of us just dumped over $1,000 on Apple new phone, and it doesn't work as well as my old phone.
Well, I'm quite happy about the fact that I've actually got a working thing, and for once, a strategy of me not spending money on something has actually paid off.
Which I think sometimes that strategy is better than most of us realise. Sometimes you are better not to spend the money. I think it's fair to say.
It would seem so. Anyway, linked in the show notes is a video to somebody who talks about all the fixes that are in 26.0.01, and hopefully will be there in 26.1 when it's finally released too.
I'm sure it will be, but I reckon they will ship 0.2 at some point.
At some point, but from what I've been hearing, 26.1 is what they should actually have shipped as the release candidate, and not what we got.
They are a build too early, aren't they? Easily.
Far too early. Should we do some media?
Let's do it.
Okay, so first off, and I kind of feel I've got two girls. I feel honor bound to talk about this. I doubt this is something you've ever watched, Chris, but I watched Mean Girls on October the 3rd.
Okay. Is that a thing?
It's totally a thing. So October the 3rd is Mean Girls Day. Okay. This is a film that really surprised me. Do you know who Tina Fey is?
I've heard the name, but I don't really know who it is.
So Tina Fey is a writer and comedian. She's best known for Saturday Night Live. I think it's where she got her start. I don't know if she was a showrunner, or she was certainly involved with the writing team for Saturday Night Live, which is a big American comedy thing. She wrote a spin-off show, not a spin-off show, but a show poking fun at and of the lifestyle of Saturday Night Live called 30 Rock, from 30 Rockefeller Plaza. It's an absolutely terrific show. Tina Fey is in it, Alec Baldwin, lots of other people you'd know from various things. She's a very acute writer and very, very funny. Anyway, she wrote Mean Girls a few years ago, which is on one level you could view it as a teeny girls, film thing, but it's actually a very acute observation of youth culture from the 90s, and it's just a lot of fun. And October the 3rd, they talk about it in the film, it's Mean Girls Day. It's October the 3rd, so I felt I had to watch it, and I did, and it's great. And the critics agree with me.
You can definitely spot the daddy's got two girls on this podcast, and the daddy's got two boys, can't you?
I think you should be open to new experiences, Chris.
Oh, no, I'm up for watching it, but it just hasn't come across my radar, obviously. Like, we haven't watched Frozen because the kids don't want to watch it, so I'm all up for new experiences, so I'm not against watching Mean Girls.
I mean, I'd go Idiocracy first, but yeah, you should definitely take a chance on Mean Girls. I think you'll enjoy it more than you think you will.
Okay, no, I'm up for it. I quite like an easy watching film, so I'd probably be up for it.
You got to pay attention. There's some good stuff in there. Continuing my Bond watch, I also managed to get in the next Bond film, so I watched The Living Daylights the other night. Timothy Dalton's first outing as James Bond, and what a cracking film!
This is one of my favourites. So I love Review to Kill, I love The Man with the Golden Gun, and I love The Living Daylights. That's probably my trilogy of top Bond films.
Yeah, this was really good. He is noticeably better towards women, it must be said. He doesn't slap anyone for a start. First Bond not to hit a woman in his first outing, I think. The language is better. The action shots are very solid. I think he looks really good as Bond, I gotta say. He has that sort of, Timothy Dalton has a really sort of dangerous element to him that Connery had and Moore didn't. So I really like him as Bond. I think he's very good. And
you've got exploding milk bottles. You've got an amazing Aston Martin with skis on it. And this is one where they land on Gibraltar at the start. I love this film. And this was in the 80s. I'm an 80s baby. I watched this a lot. I think it's fantastic.
Terrific film. I would note the guy throwing the exploding milk bottles. Do you remember? Can you picture him in your mind? Tall, blonde guy?
Very tall, blonde. In the film, he's got very slick back hair.
He does. What other film have you seen him in? Silence on a podcast, not good, Chris. I'll just fill it in.
Sorry, my mind is thinking.
Your mind is thinking. He is Hans Gruber's brother in Die Hard. He is.
Yes, now you've said it. Yes, you're right. He's got quite a distinctive face, to be fair.
Yeah, he's fantastic. Yeah, great film. Really enjoyed it. Looking forward to License to Kill. Actually, I think it's such a relief. Don't get me wrong. There were a couple of good Moore films, and I think I gave him a bit of credit as I went along. But I think the audience have been very unfair on Rotten Tomatoes to Living Daylights. It's a better film than that. And also, Aha did the soundtrack. What a cracking song!
Yeah, I absolutely love this film. I think it's great. And, they go down a ski slope on a cello case. It's just so cool. And they've got the tube where they shoot somebody over the border in like a water tube or so. I can't remember what it was, but
it's a gas pipeline.
Gas pipeline, that was it.
Yeah, I know this because I just watched it. But yeah, watch this one. It's a good one. Yeah.
Like I say, it's all come rushing back to me and I love all of it.
There you go. Do you want to tell us about Mobland?
So, have you seen Mobland?
Nope. I know what it is.
This was on Sky, I think, 6 months ago. It's now available to buy on Apple. I could say Apple TV, but Apple TV Store. And so I picked it up because a few people in my office were talking about it. And it's got great cast in it. It's got that guy there, Tom Hardy. It's got Pierce Brosnan, Helen Mirren. I couldn't think of Tom Hardy's name. Apologies. And it's basically about a mob family, having a bit of a war, and it's set here in London, and weirdly in the Cotswolds, not a million miles from where I am. And some of the swearing's a bit choice. Like there's a lot of the C-bomb I'm going to go with. There's a bit of violence, and it's a very dysfunctional family, and a really well done film. I've actually genuinely quite enjoyed it. It was something quite fresh, and I watched all 10 episodes, which is rare for me, but generally got into it, and I can see why it landed quite well. What I thought was interesting is you got Pierce Brosnan and Helen Mirren playing mob bosses, and then obviously just about a month ago they released a film where they were doing the Thursday Murder Club, where they're playing soft middle-aged pensioners. So it's quite interesting that the two roles they've been in very recently, but so poles apart, which I think says a lot for their acting capabilities. But as you know, I really enjoyed this and would recommend, but not a family film.
Serious. Yeah, I it's on there. I think if it comes along on something I can see it on, I will. I'm not going to deliberately seek it out. I like Tom Hardy. I like Pierce Brosnan when he's not Bond, except in Goldeneye. He's all right in that one. And Helen Mirren's always excellent, so I think that's probably fair enough.
Yeah, I generally enjoyed it, so I would recommend.
While we're here, I just need to say there's an advert here for Criminal Record from Apple TV Plus. Don't ever go and watch Criminal Record on Apple TV Plus.
That was on Apple. Yeah, that's not very good, is it?
It's absolute dross. Do some games.
Just before games, have you watched The Naked Gun?
The original Naked Gun with Leslie Nielsen.
No, the one with Liam Neeson in it.
I have not. No.
I started watching. I was a bit disappointed, and I think maybe just because the humour doesn't work now, but it wasn't for me, sadly.
Did you like the original?
I did watch the original because my brother used to like the original, so I did quite enjoy the original and like Aeroplane. But I was just a bit. I don't know. It just didn't work for me. I don't know.
Oh, that's a shame. Again, it's one when it presents itself to me, I'll watch it. I'm not going to seek it out. Games? Oh, before we go games, and I've got a before as well. Taskmaster, current season, remains extremely good. One of the best tasks I've ever seen was in last week's. I'm not even going to talk about what the name of the task was. It was so good. And Great British Bake Off is still excellent as well. So, good stuff on British TV at the moment.
Both of which I'm a little bit behind with, but need to be doing a bit of catch-up.
You need to get on with it, mate. Games?
Yeah, we haven't got much of games, have we?
We got one thing. I think 2 years ago, our Christmas recommendation for console was to go out there and buy an Xbox because it was by far and away the best way, the most cost-effective way to get a load of games in your hand and be able to go out and play them. The console wasn't ridiculously expensive, and Games Pass was a really cracking deal. Neither of those things are true anymore.
It depends how much you play games, I guess, but agreed. So Microsoft are hiking the price up. So if you want the Ultimate, it's now up 50% to $29.99. And if you want the regular one, it's up from $11.99 to $16.99. This is in dollars, so it's having quite a jump. But we did say, like, this can't be right. You know, they're giving away all these games, some of them very recent or day of releases. How are they doing it? Like, how do they make the money work in the back end? And it feels like maybe it's not working, and another hike. But we're seeing this with a lot of subscription services, aren't we?
A 50% jump in a subscription cost is a lot.
Agreed. I wonder what their exit rate's going to be.
And also, apparently, what's vanished and isn't mentioned in this article, but I've read elsewhere, is that you used to get discounted DLC, downloadable content packs as well, for being an Xbox subscriber, and they're all gone too. So this is a far worse deal than it was 5 minutes ago.
Oh, it's frustrating, isn't it?
It's very frustrating. And then, as I mentioned at the sort of top of this, the consoles have actually gone up in price as well. So I bought an Xbox Series S 3 years ago, I want to say. It was 220 quid. It's now 289 quid.
And that's with 4% off.
Yeah. So that's Amazon price. If you go to a toy shop or wherever you get your consoles, you're going to be paying more for that. For a console that's largely unchanged. It's 4 years old at this point? Maybe 5 years old, the Xbox? This generation of the Xbox.
Yeah, it's weird. Everything's going up, isn't it? But strange how they're doing this. I do worry about the Games Pass, because I don't know, the PlayStation hasn't got a good opposite, and we just haven't had the games on the PlayStation. But yeah, Xbox seems to have got the games, but maybe the pricing model's not working, and it's too much of a loss leader.
I think they're all much of a muchness these days. We talked last week about Flight Simulator coming to the PlayStation. I think the big tent poles are still there. I mean, I'm not going to buy the next Call of Duty because it looks dreadful. Call of Duty Black Ops 7, which I think we briefly talked about in the podcast. I'm not going there. I might pick up Battlefield 6 because it might be time for Battlefield to shine again. But other than that, I'm quite happy with what sort of trundles along from the PlayStation Store. I think that this month we had, that farming game that everybody likes so much. Stardew Valley. That's the free game this month, and that's a really big one.
Yeah, true. That is quite a big game. I think I played that on the Switch 1.
Yeah. So, it is what it is. But that was it for games. Anything else to add?
No, sadly not.
So, main show, and this is just sort of more of a discussion for you and I, Chris. You were telling me about how awesome it was last week that you could fit your entire music library onto your iPad, and that sort of triggered in my head, how much storage is enough for any of these devices? Because I'm like, 2 terabytes? Why would you ever need that? So I guess, do you want to go through the devices one by one and try and stick a flag in the sand for why you picked what you picked?
Why don't we start with the iPad, because it's really only me that uses the iPad a lot. So I bought a 2 terabyte iPad 18 months ago because I wanted to buy the iPad and not have to replace it, And lastly, that's worked out. But it dawned on me last week, actually, I didn't have much music on there. And I travel quite a lot, and I listen to music, and I'm usually working on my iPad. And I was like, well, why don't I just download my music? And so I set my music library downloading. By the way, there's no button to do this. You have to create a smart playlist on your Mac with all your songs in it, and then go on the iPad and tell it to download that playlist. So I did buy a iPad 11-inch with cellular and 2 terabytes of storage. And I do have the Pencil Pro, and I do have the keyboard for it. And I don't want you to tell me how much it costs. You need to click no engraving. Rod's trying to cost out my iPad, and he's going to make me sad because it's about £2,200. So I bought all that, and I got 2 terabytes on it. And I don't think I regret it. It was a little more money than I would obviously like to spend. But I use it a huge amount. I use it all day, every day. It's my work device, and it's also media. You're on a train, you're on a flight, you want to do something, I do the newspaper on it. So it's a cracking device. But I've now got my whole music library on it, and I've got my whole photo library on it, and I've got a whole bunch of movies downloaded to it. So it does work for me, even though it's cellular. I struggle to get the signal, but it was a bit of an excessive purchase. But I've easily got my money's worth out of it already, and I'm planning to keep it for another probably year until the M6 variant comes out, or whatever that looks like.
Wow. I'm just looking at £2,498 for a 2 terabyte. Now, I wasn't going to spec it up like that. I was just going to say a 2 terabyte iPad, which is £2,000. It's £1,999 without the keyboard, without the pencil, just to have the storage, because storage is what we're talking about here more than all the accessories, yeah?
Predominantly, yeah, but it did cost me a lot of money.
That is a huge amount of money. How much is a 2 terabyte flash drive?
Oh, no idea. Not a lot.
Neither do I. It's not
A
£2,000.
drop in the ocean compared to that.
Right, so again, I'm going to try and marshal my arguments here a little bit. I don't think you need this much storage in any of these devices. I think it's very rare you're in a position where you're going to be away for such a long time that you need 2 terabytes to look at all your photos, to listen to all your music, to watch as much TV as you get. How much watching, just if you were to play all the media on your iPad from end to end, would it give you how many hours?
Oh, loads. Like, there's probably like 20, 30 movies on it. But it's just more so I got a bit of choice. That's the only reason. Like, I probably watch one thing at a time. I was going to, so just to note though, with the iPad, I was going to buy a terabyte one either way because it came with more RAM. And this is at a time when RAM was important because it didn't have the 26 way of multitasking, which works on all RAM, all RAM limitations. And so if you got the 1 terabyte one, you went from 8 gig of RAM to 16 gig of RAM. So I was going to get the 1 terabyte one anyway. And then I was like, I might just get the 2 terabyte one. If I'm gonna do it, I'm gonna do it all the way. So I do like it, but it was a bit excessive.
Yeah, I mean, I guess my arguments are going to come back to this: is that it's how much content do you really need in the device, and that's true for all of these devices. Yep. That if you're going to travel and you're going to be, I am going to be away. My example, I went to Barcelona last week. I knew I was going to be on a 2-hour flight, and I knew potentially going to be sitting around in airports. So at a stretch, I need no more than 5 to 10 hours worth of content on my device. Yep. I have a 256 gigabyte iPhone. I got it all on my iPhone. I loaded in 3 seasons of Taskmaster, 2 movies, and a little bit of music from downloaded playlists. And that was enough content for me to go away out of the country for, 5 days. So it's different. You need a little bit of space for work, presumably, as well.
My work's relatively tiny, though. So, it's all Microsoft documents and email.
But this, you see where I'm going with this, is the chances are even on the most minimal devices like an iPhone, you don't need anywhere near. All right, I understand the concept of choice, but probably what you're going to be watching because you'll have gone, there's the film, there's the TV show, there's the couple of albums that I want to listen to. Music's a bit different and doesn't take up much space anyway, frankly. But it's a real stretch to think I need 2 terabytes or even 1 terabyte in some cases.
I should probably bought the 1 terabyte model. Only because of the RAM, but I went to because I was like, no, I'm just going to go with it, and that's what I've done. Would I do it again? Possibly not. I'd probably just go 1 terabyte.
So, and I think these days iPhones and iPads and things will work with USB-C accessories. Now, the one I found is a USB-A accessory, but you can get an adapter. We'll go with that. Some programs will let you do it. You can have a 2 terabyte flash drive for 150 quid.
Yep.
You'd get quite a lot of media on that, and if you did want to update whatever it was, you'd probably be, even with an iPad these days, you'd probably be able to play it off that.
Yeah, you're probably right.
Right, so that's my argument. My argument is I
just threw money at the problem to make my life a bit easier. So I had plenty of storage. I don't need to do anything else. I don't need to think too much. I can just chuck some stuff on it and off I go.
My last 2 points, my lud, as I'm building my case here. How long did it take you to transfer all that to the iPad?
No idea. Just leave it overnight usually.
Well, this is it. If you want something quick when you leave the house, then this isn't the way to do that, is it?
But I left all the music just downloads automatically now because it's set to download all music, and the photos download automatically, and then the TV shows I just pick them. But to download my entire music library, just did it overnight once. Job done.
Yeah, I suppose. I mean, I'm only lightly thinking about this because your strategy for how you work with this is very dependent on who you are as a person and what access you have to the media that's around there. If you live entirely in an Apple bubble where you're downloading from their TV shows, the TV show choices or things that you've bought, their streaming service, their photos service, that this is all kind of baked in, and it kind of pushes you towards those higher tiers of storage.
100%. If you're in the Apple world, it does. What is good, though, like Netflix, iPlayer, they all allow you to download as well.
They do, and that's what I do, and that's what I did, is that I went to channel4.com, I picked the series I wanted, I clicked download, and the Taskmaster episodes downloaded, and not in very high quality, but they didn't need to be for a phone, because when I'm on a plane, I can't be bothered getting my iPad out, unless I'm working, in which case I'll get my computer out, not an iPad. I just want, some that I can pop my AirPods into my ears, I can sit and watch, and it'll do me 2 or 3 hours on battery, fine, no problem. So I think it's the reason we get pushed into these higher tiers of storage is the ecosystem, and it's as simple as that.
Yeah, I agree. It's Apple upselling me 100%. So, but I did it, and I don't overly regret the decision. And I think that iPad is still good for another year, if not longer. And actually, if Apple went to update one for a couple of years, I'd be good. But I was buying it knowing I was going to keep it for a little while.
I think it's fine, and it amuses me that your iPad has more storage than my Mac.
Yes, it's probably on a par with my Mac Mini. Should we move on to other devices? So the iPad's got loads in it.
That's what I was doing.
Lazy at picking and planning ahead.
I'd segued into Mac is what I was doing there. Is like, so I got 1 terabyte on my Mac, you got 1 terabyte on your Mac, and I edit the podcast with it. You got 2 terabytes.
I've got 2 terabytes on my Mac Mini because I use it as a bit of a service. So it's got all my photos on it. It's got a few family films and things it hosts, and a bit of coding on it. So I've got 2 in the Mac Mini. Again, planning not to upgrade it, but I do have 1 in my MacBook because I think Apple should only sell 1 terabyte or above in a Mac.
You overspecify your devices more than me, I think. And we'll come to where all my arguments fall down in a minute. You'll be able to sling some mud back in my direction.
I used to overspecify, but I had a different job and so I could afford to overspec. But I know if I don't buy what I want, I will then end up selling it 6 months down the road and buying what I want. So buy what you want now. That's what I've learned.
You're coming over a bit Marco Arment at the moment. So I went 1 terabyte. I do the creative stuff. I edit the podcast, then I do the video on there, and it's more than enough space for that. On a 1 terabyte one, and I probably could just about get away with 512 because when I travel, I've got my laptop and it's got 512, so I can do it on that. So I know how much you can actually get into 512. Now, normally, I'd say plan to have a device for 3 to 5 years. So there is an argument for over-speccing it, for 2 terabytes or certainly 1 terabytes if you've only got that, because you can't change it later.
No, and that's my view is overspec because you can't change later.
So
that's why I went with 2 in the Mac Mini.
That changes slightly with the iPhone because most people do change their iPhones most normal people 2 to 3 years, abnormal people every year. I've got to say, I think the biggest iPhone I ever had was a 512, and it was all enough. And I'm back down at 256 now, and it's enough.
Yeah, I'm 256 on the iPhone. I don't think I've ever had anything bigger. I'm glad that they've done away with the 128 because a few people have been struggling to help them update their devices when they were 128 or 64, just because they haven't got enough storage. So no, phone is 256. I've got quite a lot of music on my phone just downloaded because when I'm driving in the car, just when you're streaming, it just doesn't work because where I live, you just don't get consistent enough signal and it just times out when you're streaming.
I mean, I guess I don't do that. I listen to podcasts and podcast download, but I've generally got enough of them.
If I put a podcast on and I am taxing my family around, they get very cheesed off with me, or an audiobook that I've downloaded. So I just generally have a lot of music and we browse around it in any of the cars. And the CarPlay in all 3 of our cars. So it's great to have that functionality. So I do have a reasonable amount downloaded, not everything. I don't download my photos. I've got a couple of films on there, but just literally a couple of films, just so I've got something if I'm stuck somewhere and I just want to put something on. That's it. But I don't have any apps on my iPhone.
I think that your data bandwidth caps and accessibility is what's affecting you more than anything else here. Obviously, you don't have that reliable networks because I don't think about it. Everywhere I go where I want to stream, unless I'm on a plane, I can download stuff. I can listen to music. I can get my podcasts. I've got 5G almost everywhere I go. I don't really think about it. When I was briefly without internet over the last couple of weeks, I've been able to make do with 4G, and everything comes down and downloads, and I've managed to keep up with Slow Horses and Taskmaster and all that stuff over a 4G network with 2 bars. So it's all possible.
I think I've said it before, though, haven't I? I said I wish they didn't bother with 5G. Can we just get 4G everywhere first? And that's probably because I live a little bit out in the sticks. So, driving to the train station, you don't have a constant signal. I've got plenty of data on my tariff. I have 120 gig of data, and I never max that out. But the problem I have is just the inconsistent networks. I get on the train, and I can't work on my iPad until I get to the next station because that first 20 minutes is really awful signal.
Life in the modern UK. Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. So there's your sort of bounding factors. You're quite happy in the Apple ecosystem, so therefore you're dependent on that. And then how good your network connections are the second one. So in a perfect world, in the bigger metropolitan area, urban area I live in Swansea, I don't have an issue with these things. I've generally got good connections on the networks I'm with, and I can stream pretty much everywhere I go.
Yeah, and I've also got EE on my phone and O2, which are the two big networks here other than Voda in the UK. And I struggle with both of them sometimes. There's not one that is bang on for me.
Interesting. And then the last one, and Apple TV, I think we can gloss over. There's no point in getting
Why were there storage options on Apple TV?
It still makes no sense to me why there's storage options on Apple TV. I guess if you download a lot of apps, but there's very few apps to download, really.
Game caching is the only thing I can think of, but gaming list never took off.
I think we both went for the minimum possible size on our Apple TVs.
Yep.
I have put an awful lot of hard drives in my NAS, though. I have 67 terabytes of storage on my NAS.
I don't have that. I probably have like 10.
You've got 5 iPads worth of storage on your NAS.
But I can't back my iPad up to my NAS.
No, I can't really explain this other than I think my ecosystem usage is different to yours. All my photos go onto my NAS. The podcast goes onto the NAS. I have some media backed up to the NAS. All that kind of stuff is where that goes. So that's the real difference, actually. That I don't feel I need to buy devices with lots of storage because I can push it all off to that and I can get at that quite easily. So instead of the Apple ecosystem, I maintain my own one, and I could be accused of having overkill in terms of storage on that. Fair. But I think it's cheaper for me to slam a 12 terabyte hard drive into that than it is for you to buy another iPad.
And it will probably last you way, way, way longer. So, I don't disagree with your way, but you more roll your own. I'm just paying for ease and convenience.
There we go. So hopefully listeners will have come to some sort of conclusion about their own use, but I just thought it'd be interesting for us to run through why we are where we are.
Yeah, especially when I was just going to touch on when I compare like my wife's MacBook, she's got like 256 or 512. It's fine. Her phone is 128 or 256. She will never bump into any data storage issues with it. So it's quite interesting looking around that, and same with my children.
Yeah, and if you had to do, as I said at the start, and plan you're going away for a week and you've only got 512 or 256, you'd probably manage because you just prioritise the things you actually wanted on there. Yeah,
I'm just lazy. I just download 10 films and see what I fancy.
At maximum quality because you get a nice screen.
Yep. Yeah, I do download the 4K stuff because it looks good.
There you go. App of the week.
Do it.
So my app of the week is called Amphetamine. It is a drug, but I'm not talking about it in that instance. What Amphetamine does if you install on your Mac is it keeps your Mac awake. So you can set it up in the top right-hand corner and over to the clock, the taskbar, what you want it to do. So you fire up Amphetamine, you say, don't let this Mac go to sleep, only let the display go to sleep, never let the hard disks go to sleep. Or you can specify if an action is running. So if you're copying a file or something like that, you can say, watch this until this is finished and then give 5 minutes on top. It's an incredibly flexible thing, and we've all lived where you've set something that's hard to download, slow to download going. You're worried your Mac's going to go to sleep or your computer's going to go to sleep and it will cut out and you'll have to start it again. This is invaluable. Or I've used it in a work situation where you want a computer to be a kiosk, so you want people to come up and use it. You don't want the screensaver to cut in, the password to cut in. Amphetamine is a really handy little free app that lives in your toolbar that gives you a lot more flexibility over your power options.
Sounds good.
Yeah, it's really good. If you're a terminal junkie, you can type caffeinate into your terminal instead, which is a baked-in Mac command. So caffeine is obviously a thing, and Amphetamine amps it up. So it's building on an existing Mac extension for those who want to know.
Fantastic.
There you go. Thing of the week.
So I've gone with an Audible book this week. So I've listened to Inside by Boris Becker. This is about Boris Becker, famous tennis player. Unseeded, won Wimbledon in the 80s as like a 17-year-old boy. Fast forward 30, 40 years later, a couple of divorces, and he's bankrupt and going to prison. And he just tells a little bit of his story of being in prison and a few anecdotes of his life beforehand and his new partner and stuff like that. I actually quite enjoyed the book, and to be fair to Boris, he could read me nearly anything. I think he's a bit like Stephen Fry. I think he just is quite a joy to listen to. So that was what I'm going with this week. It's just something I bought on a whim, and I am an Audible subscriber. So generally when I buy an Audible book. It cost me like £4 or £5. They're actually very cheap, rather than buying them one at a time, because it'd be $12.99 otherwise. So I actually just quite enjoyed it. It was just something on in the background.
Yeah, fair enough. I wouldn't be particularly interested in this. I mean, he's not the most... He's a good sportsman back in the day. I think he's made some morally questionable decisions since then for the way he's acted, and obviously he's written a book about it, and he's owning up to some of those. I think it was tax evasion, was it? Is he primarily? Primarily.
Yeah, he hid some assets by the sounds of it. And I mean, take the book, I guess, with a pinch of salt. He was only in prison for 8 months. I mean, don't get me wrong, I say only 8 months. It was probably the longest 8 months of his life. But yeah, I mean, he should never be given any money to look after. He should definitely have people do it. But some things, just listen to him, they didn't always have his interests at heart. But yeah, he's borrowing millions here and there to do up a house, to sell it, to pay his debts. And, oh, my Lord.
Yeah. Interesting. Oh, well, I mean, it's definitely different from our usual Apple-focused, tech-focused recommendations for books and things like that. So, yeah, good one. Good one.
Yeah, something a bit... That's why I like Thing of the Week, something a bit different. That was my thing this week.
Nice. I think we call that a show, Chris.
I think so. So if anyone wants to get in contact, Rod is at g5maniac@mastodon.scot. He's also on Blue Sky, where he's at g5maniac.bsky.social. I'm on Mastodon, and I'm at _CJP at mastodon.social. You can watch on YouTube by going to the wakefromsleep.com website and clicking on the YouTube link, or you can drop us an email at wakefromsleep@protonmail.com.
Talk to you next week, Chris.
Cheers, Rod.